What's going on, everyone? It's Nick with Facemask Fantasy, reacting to the recent news coming out of Arizona. Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins is being suspended for the first 6 games of the 2022 season for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing drug policy. Hopkins reportedly withdrew his appeal, so the suspension is official. The news of Hopkins' suspension comes on the heels of Arizona acquiring Marquise Brown from the Ravens for the 23rd pick in the draft. So fair to assume the Cardinals knew this was coming prior to the draft. Hopkins was the wide receiver 10 through 10 games in 2021 before injuries derailed his season. Now, about a month before his 30th birthday, we know he won't play until week 7 this year at the earliest. It's the latest piece of news in a whirlwind of an offseason for Arizona so far, which has included an apparent rift between the organization and franchise quarterback Kyler Murray. Murray is seeking a lucrative contract extension from the team. Now Murray will be without his wide receiver 1 to begin the season, and Arizona will be relying on the recently acquired Brown, along with Rondale Moore, AJ Green, and Zach Ertz to get them through the early portion of their schedule. In Dynasty, this flat out sucks if you have Hopkins. Hopefully you're a contender and you can absorb the short-term hit, but if you have Hopkins rostered and might be closer to a rebuild or just general non-contention, this is a huge blow to any potential value you can get in a deal. So hold either way and hope Hopkins can put up big numbers shortly after his suspension and get his value back up. Hopkins was regularly going around the top of the 3rd round in underdog best ball drafts prior to the NFL draft. He figures to tumble now, and with the uncertainty now surrounding him, I'd rather not deal with the headache of a potentially wasted roster spot in best ball, especially in tournaments where you are relying on scoring as many points as possible to advance to the knockout rounds. I would still draft Hopkins in redraft, though, because of the potential upside he provides at that point in the draft. And in a worst-case scenario in redraft, you can obviously drop him, whereas you're stuck with him in best ball. As for the ripple effects, Kyler Murray remains a QB1, but his ceiling naturally takes a sizable hit without his top receiver. You're still firing Murray up if you have him, but temper expectations for the first third of the season. That said, if this news pushes his ADP down a round or more in redraft, I'd roll the dice and take him. For the pass catchers, Hollywood currently has an underdog ADP of 64. That will climb at least 10 spots as he likely ascends to the number 1 role without Hopkins. And in case you forgot, Hollywood was a wide receiver 1 on the season last year before Lamar Jackson got injured. That's the glass half full, and obviously we can't forget the potential for growing pains as Murray and Brown learn how to play together. It's a good offense, though, and they'll be relying on Brown. He's an easy-to-project wide receiver 2 for the season, and if all goes well for the Cardinals from here on out, Brown has wide receiver 1 upside. AJ Green is back in the mix after totaling 54 catches for 848 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2021. He had a couple 100-yard games, but also had 7 games with less than 50 yards receiving. AJ Green is a wide receiver 4 at this point for fantasy purposes, and if last year was any indication, Hopkins being out of the lineup doesn't change that. The biggest short-term winner is Rondale Moore. Moore may have fallen to 4th on the depth chart after the team acquired Hollywood, and now figures to get an extended look in the slot as Hollywood likely takes more snaps on the outside. This could be Rondale's opportunity to earn a significant role in the offense following Hopkins' return. Rondale's ADP of 120 might rise a little, but probably not significantly. He's a good cost-effective option late in drafts. In Dynasty, whatever buy low window existed after the Hollywood trade is probably gone, but could resurface when Hopkins comes back. Finally, Zach Ertz was a top 5 tight end after being traded to Arizona last year. He'll be a threat to do that again, and in Dynasty, could be someone to try and move for peak value a couple of weeks into the season. We can cross that bridge, though, when we get to it. And James Conner appears locked in for a huge role after the team's only backfield addition this offseason was drafting Keontae Ingram in the 6th round. Conner could flirt with RB1 numbers yet again, especially if his role in the passing game increases to start the season. I mentioned earlier it's been a whirlwind offseason for Arizona, so obviously we want to keep an eye on the vibes in this offense and for the team in general as we progress through the offseason, because so far it's been a lot of negative news. For fantasy purposes, we obviously want to be out in front of situations like this. So while I'm not declaring that it's a bad vibe situation officially in Arizona, just keep an eye on it when the time comes and you're considering adding Cardinals players to your fantasy roster for this season. But what do you guys think? Put any reactions you have to DeAndre Hopkins' suspension in the comments below, and we can have a conversation about this. We also host live streams on our channel each Tuesday and Thursday, all off season long at 6 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out, come get any questions answered you may have, bring up any general fantasy topics you care to talk about. Till then, this is Nick with Facemask Fantasy. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening.